What's going on, my super fam? In patch 3.8 first phase banner official information has finally dropped, and guess what, guys? We finally managed to predict 100% of the 4-star character correct for the first time. If you've watched my prediction video like I've posted a few days ago, I did my best to actually predict that there's going to be Mika, Thoma and Razor as how I usually would predict. But then yeah, there goes Hoyoverse never making my prediction mostly correct, and most of the time I only got like 2 right, but this time around they were all right, which is pretty lucky for us. But either way, guys, as usual, today on the channel we'll be discussing 5 most important things you want to keep in mind before you actually go ahead and pull for 3.8 first phase banner to make sure to help you make the best decision possible. Now guys, when talking about pulling for characters, then in collaboration with Paimon's Bargain, we're doing a huge giveaway once patch 3.8 banners drop. So if you are new to the channel, guys, don't forget to subscribe and join my Discord server to join the giveaway, as it's going to be a very huge chance for you to get a lot of Primogems to save up for the characters. And so with that out of the way, let's just dive into the video. First off, it's going to be around our Eula. Now guys, I've been talking a lot about Eula within the past week, and so any of the important point regarding her playstyle and everything about her has been touched on some of my videos. However, there was something that I didn't talk about in that, which is going to be regarding constellations. So when I talk a bit about this, if you are someone who had Eula or is going to be trying to pull for her and really like her as a character and also want to decide to pull on her constellations, this is something that we'll be discussing right now. And so for a C1, basically every time the Grimheart stacks are consumed, her physical damage is increased by 30% for 6 seconds. Each of the stacks will increase the duration of this effect by 6 seconds up to 18 seconds. Now this constellation is actually pretty good for a C1, and considering how much you invest in, because the 30% physical damage increase is quite significant. So a very beneficial constellation for her, especially when it is only at the very start. C2 decreases the cooldown of Ice type Vortex holding, or in other words her E skill hold mode, to be identical to tap cooldown. This is also pretty nice, because considering her hold E skill is where she gets the cryo and physical resistance decrease to her enemies, without her C2 the cooldown is actually quite long, so it is going to be a little bit more beneficial. Now it's not going to be like the top priority constellation you want to have onto her, because you're still going to be fine without the cooldown reduction, but if you are investing in it, it's going to be quite decent. C4 increases her Lightfall Sword to deal 25% more damage against opponent with 50% less HP. Not a very important cons, even though a 25% increased damage is quite decent, but it's always going to be capped depending on which enemies you're facing. Can be good on tougher bosses enemy, where it does take you quite a while to defeat them, but other than that, considering how much you have to invest into a C4, it's not really that good. And then C6 is absolutely her best constellation, and it's something that I've seen so many of, Eula main have gone for her, since this constellation just increases her damage significantly high. And this is where, some of the showcase you've seen on Eula has been doing some insanely high number just with a pop of her burst. This is basically a constellation where it helps you to max out her stacking potential of her burst, which is why it has the potential to be very, very high damage. So overall, Eula Constellation is decently fine. If you do want to invest to her, I would say that her C1 is technically going to be the best if you want to like slightly invest into her, and then try to go for the Broken Pines if you can. And then other than that, if you still want to go and have the power to invest into her, then C6 is still doing decently fine. And yeah, C6 Eula will still be able to help her clear the abyss very, very well, even though as we have known, Eula is a character that didn't really have much of a buff, so she's much lower on the tier list, but her constellation will still help her to hold up. And then next is going to be our little girl Klee. And so I've also discussed quite a bit about Klee as well, as that she's pretty much going to be a preference character for you to pull, considering how many pyro character there has already been. And spoiler alerts, there's more pyro character to be coming, especially when it comes to Fontaine for our new region. But I know that there are still Klee mains out there, and some of you might still want to invest into Klee. And so this is where we'll look into her constellation. C1 gives her that her attacks and skills have certain chance to summon sparks that that bombard the opponents, dealing damage equal to 120% of spark and splash damage. This constellation basically focuses on her doing more DPS damage numbers. Now considering it's still based on the number of chance that you have to be lucky for it to activate, it's still not going to be too much of a priority, though it's still going to be a decent constellation to have if you want to have your Klee do more damage. C2 is likely going to be some of the best constellation in the game, because whenever your opponent's being hit by Jumpty Dumpty's mine, their defense is decreased by 23%. And considering Defense Shred is still some of the rarest skill in the game, having access to this is going to be pretty decent. And of course, this also allows your Klee to do a lot more number, so that's going to be good. C4, if Klee leaves the field during her burst duration, she will trigger an explosion that deals 555% of her attack as AoE pyro damage. I don't know why it is 555. It's kind of like a weird number, even though that we all know that this is an absolutely high number. And considering it's also AoE pyro damage, it is very beneficial, and it also allows you to have kind of like a Klee sub DPS as well, because your gameplay can now just be, you know, cast her E skill for the mines and then cast her burst, switch her out instantly while she's also dealing significant damage. But you can still also have her on field doing as much burst damage as she can possibly do just right before the moment her burst ends, and then you switch out for an additional significant damage as well. So C4 on Klee is absolutely really good. For C6, while she's under the effect of her burst, she will always generate 3 energy for all party members except for her once every 3 seconds, while also her party member will gain 10% pyro damage bonus for 25 seconds. Now this is not that great of a constellation for a C6. 3 energy once every 3 seconds isn't really that great, and 10% pyro damage bonus, guys, we have a lot of characters in the game that actually can do that for you. 10% is actually quite little, it's not really that high. So if you want to invest into Klee's constellation, it's rather going to be either a C2 or a C4 stopping point, and then you're more than enough good to go with your favorite Klee. Now let's move on to discussing the 4-star character on the banner. As we can see, there's absolutely going to be Mika, as we have discussed. Mika is a character that is supporting Eula specifically, so he has to be on this banner. However guys, as we have discussed before, Mika isn't really that great, especially at C0. But guys, if you do manage to get him all the way to C6, it's going to be a much more reliable character. So C6 Mika is kind of like the goal, especially when you are using Eula, so that you can pull out as much potential out of Mika as you can. Next, there's going to be Thoma, which is an absolutely good character, I would say, because right now he's one of the best pyro character when it comes to Persian teams. Of course, there's always going to be, you know, some of the more competitive candidates out there, but if you do have Thoma, especially when you have his constellations, it's going to be very nice to have him on the team. And also C6ing Thoma is the way to go, because he does support your team significantly well, especially when it comes to character being on field doing normal and charge attack. And then Razor, yeah, he's going to be a character that have absolutely no connection to the 5-star on the banner whatsoever, as usual on, you know, most of the 5-star banners. And I believe that most of us doesn't really use him anymore, so yeah, hopefully you don't really get him. Now I'm not really disrespecting Razor main. If you're still using him, he can still do damage, but most of the time it's just going to be for fun when you're using Razor. So overall, an okay 4-star, you know, on the banner. I guess that Thoma is going to be the most valuable for you because it can be used across many different teams. Mika is only for physical, so unless you're using a physical character, you're probably not going to be using him. So overall, if you're pulling on the banners, I hope that you do get the character that you want very early. Next, let's have a look at the weapon banner. I'd say this is going to be kind of like a very basic banner. You've got, you know, the Broken Pines and the Lost Prayer, which are two of the weapons that have been quite some time now. Lost Prayer is an okay catalyst to have. It's for, you know, hyper carries that you do on the field, because the passive can be decently good for the weapon, but whenever you're off field, you're not getting any of the stacks. And some of the Broken Pines literally only for Eula because it buffs physical damage, guys. So if you are a Eula main, you can try to get this weapon because it, you know, really does look nice in terms of aesthetics wise. But other than that, you're not going to be having it on any of the characters most of the time. 4-star weapon wise, I don't really see any good 4-star apart from the Favonius Lance. You know, the Rain Slasher can be fine sometime, but other than that, you're most likely not going to be using any of the 4-star weapon on the banner. So guys, it's a pretty bad 5-star banner, which I really don't recommend you to pull unless you really want to invest into the 5-star character you're trying to get. And so lastly, let's discuss about some of the future banners, because this is really huge. Now I feel that whole universe is kind of like doing a disservice, especially to the character reruns in patch 3.8, because they've been teasing a whole ton of, you know, new Fontaine characters when the official banners have been dropped. I believe you guys have already seen the new Fontaine characters teaser. I've already made a reaction videos on that. If you haven't really done so, you can check it out and enjoy the video together with me. But of course, a lot of new, very interesting character coming to Fontaine, and it's only like 6 weeks away as of the moment patch 3.8 banners come. And especially they've just already teased further Linny and Lynette in terms of, you know, being a Pyro and an Anemo character. I'm pretty sure these two are going to be a 5-star character, because I don't know why they would leave them as a 4-star. So right off the bat, new 5-star character already coming, and I believe that most of the character who has been teased are going to be 5-star for the majority of them as well. So there's going to be a lot of saving for you guys to do. So if you are someone who's liking a lot of the new Fontaine character and still trying to pull in patch 3.8, I do really recommend you to try and be moderate, as these all are going to be costing us a lot of Primogems. Now we don't know which banners specifically are going to be in patch 4.0 at the very first phase yet, so we really can't say, or I can't really recommend you to do anything yet, but I believe that in the second phase we will have some information regarding that for further discussion. So overall, this is going to be all my saying before patch 3.8 banners arrive. I really wish you good luck if you are going to be pulling on the banners, because it's been a long time since Eula has been back. And also guys, remember, if you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe to, you know, freely support me. But also there's going to be a huge giveaway coming soon, so it's going to be a very good chance for you all. Now once again, if you're still on the fence of which character you should be pulling for in patch 3.8, then I have a very in-depth video going through that for you. I'm pretty sure it's going to be very beneficial to you, so do check out the video right above here. Again, I really appreciate you guys sticking with me till this part of the video, and with that, I wish you a super day, and I will catch you on my next video.